All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Minnesota Vikings in today's video. And even though I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, this team is so interesting to me. And around this time last year, we didn't even know who was going to be the starting quarterback. Once you guys took J.J. McCarthy in the first round of the draft, you still had Sam Darnold, and we're thinking, all right, is Sam Darnold going to be the bridge guy? Is JJ going to beat him out in preseason? Is Darnold going to be there for a couple of years? What's the situation? But either way, whether it was JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold being the starting quarterback last year on this channel, we knew they were going to be good. And all of my Vikings fans watching these videos, you guys knew you were going to be good as well, because even with a question mark at quarterback, the rest of the roster is so solid, and it's one of, if not, like a top 3 coaching staff in the National Football League. And so what I want to tell you is I feel the exact same way right now than I did 1 year ago. But honestly, probably even a little bit better, just because JJ McCarthy is younger than Sam Darnold. So this is the quarterback of the future. I guess the Aaron Rodgers thing technically is still going on, and we won't even touch on it. But I wanted to go through a couple of different free agent acquisitions that you guys made that I thought were literally like 10 out of 10 A+ moves to kind of get into some draft talk, because the Vikings don't have too many draft picks this year, but they do have the 24th overall. And you're going to be able to get a starter, whether it's the interior offensive line, whether it's a cornerback. That 24th pick is extremely interesting to me, much like the Minnesota Vikings in general. But folks, without further ado, hit that like button, hit that sub button if you haven't already. We post a ton of Vikings content on this channel. Seriously, it is one of my favorite teams that I cover in the league. And yeah, bless you guys all. If we try and get this one to 250 likes, folks, it goes an extremely long way. So it's kind of funny to just say a 14-3 team that technically lost their starting quarterback is probably better for the future, right? And I even want to get a little bit deep with some of these moves. I'm going to start it off talking about Jordan Mason, because they made a move. The Vikings made a trade for him, right? They moved 27 spots down in this year's draft to acquire Jordan Mason and a 6th rounder next year. And then you signed him on a 2-year contract worth $12 million. But the important number to me was $7 million guaranteed. Now, I love Showtime 33, aka Aaron Jones. But one thing the Minnesota Vikings really lacked last season was a consistent backup. And I should actually probably say a consistent backup production, right? Whether it was because you guys had a couple of different backups, and in the playoff game, and then in the final month of the season, Cam Akers was kind of a nice little jolt there. But for the most part, Ty Chandler, Cam Akers, there wasn't enough pop and sizzle. Or there was pop with Aaron Jones, maybe not enough sizzle. Maybe it's the other way around, because Jones is more of a finesse guy. Either way, this was a really good insurance policy as well, because Aaron Jones isn't getting any younger, but 2-year, $20 million contract extension for Aaron Jones. So this is why it's important. Jordan Mason really broke out last season. In his 3rd NFL year, he had 789 yards and 3 touchdowns in only 12 games while filling in for Christian McCaffrey. Now, he returned in week 10, and Jordan Mason at that point had 685 rushing yards, which was 4th in the entire National Football League. So obviously Aaron Jones is expected to be the primary running back, but he's 30 years old. And, we talked about this so much last year, because a couple of years ago it was annoying for the Packers because Aaron Jones, kind of tweaked I think it was his hammy in his last year with Green Bay. And then he was, kind of done for a lot of the regular season in chunks, and then came back for the playoffs, absolutely lit it up. So I'm very adamant on keeping Aaron Jones healthy come playoff time. So this is just perfect. Aaron also dealt with some fumbling issues for like a month last season. So if ball security does come up again, you feel a lot better about Jordan Mason for, I'd say, whatever the situation calls for. I wouldn't even get into specifics. Now, his run scheme, he's familiar with it. All right. And it's a really deep running back draft class, which is the only reason this could be a head scratcher. But you got to keep in mind, man, the Vikings have playoff aspirations this upcoming year, and they only have 4 draft picks. So rather than relying on hitting on a rookie running back, they went out there and traded for Jordan Mason. So I like it. And, I know it's kind of crazy to call the Jordan Mason trade an A+, but honestly, that's literally the way I see it. And then 2 A+ moves, the offensive line, and I'll keep it brief, because the Vikings offensive line was very interesting last season. And, a lot of people, especially like Seahawks fans watching Sam Darnold now, are finally being aware of it. The Vikings star left tackle got injured halfway through the season, so that really sucked. But the interior offensive line was just not getting the job done. Center Garrett Bradbury was definitely a solid average starting center in the NFL, but you upgrade with Ryan Kelly, just immediate upgrade. And then Will Fries was one of the best guards on the market, if not the best guard on the market. And the reason, first off, everybody wanted him, but the reason it's not like a crazy big deal, it was heading into free agency, is just because he broke his tibia in week 5 of last season. So only saw 4 full games at right guard for Will Fries last year, but you gave him a 5-year, $88 million contract. So you feel pretty good about his recovery. And then with Ryan Kelly, just a solid veteran, both former Colts teammates. I loved the Will Fries move, and then I thought the Ryan Kelly move just honestly went really under the radar. And then real quick, 2 defensive linemen, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. When we talk Vikings so far this free agency, I've mainly talked about the offense, which is kind of funny because they lost the starting quarterback, but I love watching JJ's film from that preseason game. I think there's a lot there. But Jonathan Allen and the new defense, it's interesting, all right? 3-year, $60 million contract. Now, I know he just turned 30, but he is a former captain. This is a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. This is a 2-time Pro Bowler. He joins a Vikings team that was 4th in sacks last year and the 2nd best rush defense in the league. So he's raising the ceiling. He's raising the floor. And and it's kind of similar to Hargrave, where I'd say 1 month ago, the clear-cut consensus maybe not clear-cut consensus for Minnesota's draft strategy was interior defensive line at 24. What these 2 moves in Hargrave and Allen do is it frees you up at 24, where your defensive line or your defensive tackles, they're not immediate pressing needs at pick number 24. So Allen only played 8 games last season in 2024 after suffering a partially torn pectoral, but he had played 15 games minimum in each of his previous 6 seasons. He did record 3 sacks and 3 tackles for loss in those 8 games he played for the Commanders last year. Former 2017 first-round pick, all 8 years of his career with the Washington Commanders/Redskins, totaling 42 total sacks and 2 Pro Bowls. And then Javon Hargrave, and I really like this, another 2-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle coming over on a kind of like a similar-ish contract, 2-year, $30 million, 19 of it is guaranteed. Played a career low 3 games in 2024 because of a partially torn tricep that did require surgery. He was not immediately ruled out for the season, but San Francisco went 6-11, and their season was an absolute dumpster fire, so they did not rush him back, and they just let him hit the market. They cut him. So in those 3 games, only 3 games, not really going to get any stats out of there. The year before, so 2023, Javon Hargrave had 64 total pressures for the Philadelphia Eagles, which ranked 8th amongst 129 qualified interior defensive linemen. So he is 32, and he is coming off an injury. He's played for a couple of teams, San Francisco, Philly, Pittsburgh. He was a 3rd-round pick from South Carolina State back in 2016. But in 118 starts across 130 total NFL games, he has almost 400 tackles, over 50 of those for loss, almost 50 total sacks, even 8 pass breakups, and 4 forced fumbles. I mean, just looking zooming back when we get back to the new defensive line, the new interior defensive line, Hargrave and Allen in the last 5 years, this is amongst 300 qualified pass rushers. They ranked 45th and 89th in pressure rate. So just looking back at last year, Jonathan Bullard and Phillips, they were 236th and 275th. So the point here is, yes, the Vikings they were 5th in points per game. They were 2nd defense in DVOA, and that was with pretty much no interior pocket pressure. All right. So I really loved both of those 2 moves, even if they are on the wrong side of 30. It's something to keep in mind heading into the draft, but it's not a pressing need, and it's definitely not a pressing need for me right now. And I just kind of wanted to throw these in here because we haven't talked about it. We'll talk about the draft in just a second. Rondale Moore, 24 years old. And, the Vikings coaching staff I just love. And so we'll talk about Jeff Okudah and Rondale Moore because these are two players that have had kind of underwhelming careers. We'll get to Jeff in just one second, but like Rondale is only 24. He's not played in the NFL since 2023. Former Atlanta Falcon wide receiver, he suffered a season-ending knee injury last fall during preseason joint practices. But in his first 3 seasons with Arizona, he had 135 catches for 1,200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown in 2023. But obviously, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Naylor. I just like having Rondale Moore in that wide receiver room to see if there's something special there, or at least something there. And then Jeff Okudah, 26 years old. All right. This is a former 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft, and he was to the Detroit Lions. I'm sure everyone remembers him. He's a big dude, 6'1", 205 pounds, but his NFL career has been just very up and down, mainly downs, and he's bounced between numerous teams in the last couple of years. He played for the Falcons in 2023, then played for the Houston Texans last season. But once again, just like Rondale Moore, Minnesota and the management and the team, they're just kind of banking on the combination of, first off, Brian Flores being the defensive coordinator, but all of the coaching staff, his personnel, his players around him, his teammates, they're just hoping that this can get as much as you can from him, right? Hopefully this is Jeff Okudah's best season yet, no matter what his role is, whether he wins a starting cornerback role or a depth role or whatever it is. I wanted to throw Jeff Okudah and Rondale Moore in there because we haven't talked about it on this channel. And then finally, we have the NFL draft. The Minnesota Vikings have, like I said, the 24th overall pick, April 24th. So we are 16 days away at the time of this recording. And like I said as well, Minnesota only has 4 total picks in the 7 rounds. Interior defensive line, cornerback, interior offensive line is some positional needs I've been seeing from Minnesota Vikings fans. But 24, man, I get it. The cornerback room's a little interesting. I do like Isaiah Rodgers. I'll have to do a film study on Isaiah Rodgers. Let me know if you guys want one on the cornerback room for Minnesota. But Gray's able at 24. I think this is perfect. I really do. This was a 5-tool offensive lineman in college. He's coming from North Dakota State. He's not long enough to be a tackle in the NFL, but this guy's a stud. His IQ is through the roof. He's powerful. He's explosive. He's flexible. He's physical. I mean, he's everything you want in an offensive lineman. I think he fits the Minnesota brand perfectly. It's kind of close, North Dakota State University. Gray's able, I think, no matter what team he lands on, he's going to be starting on whatever team that is. But anyways, folks, I think he's, by the way, a perfect fit at left guard. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. And then, guys, if you're still watching right now, let me know your answer to this question. This is a 13-minute long video. I usually do like around 8. Do you like these videos that are a little bit longer? So maybe you'd get like 1 Vikings video like this, or you'd get like 2 8-minute Vikings videos a week. Let me know down below. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Give me your thoughts on 24th overall pick for Minnesota. Let me know who your guy is. Peace.